Thank you, Concorda. There has been a national outpouring of both shock and grief in the days since the terrible loss of Detective Garda Colm Horkan, who gave his life serving the state and protecting the community. We've come to learn of the man so beloved of his family, his community and his Garda colleagues. As Minister for Justice and Equality, I convey again my deepest condolences to Colm's father Marty, to his sister and fellow public servant Deirdre, his brothers Aidan, Brendan, Dermot and Podrick, to his wider family and friends, and to all the women and men of An Garda Síochána who are heartbroken by his loss. Indeed, Detective Horkan served with distinction for 24 years as a Garda member. He was a proud Mayo man. He was a talented stalwart of his local GA club, Charlestown Sarsfields, since his earliest days playing there as a young boy. We've all heard his colleagues and friends describe him as a man of the highest integrity, a peacemaker, a rock of sense and discretion who loved his job as a member of An Garda Síochána. Throughout his exemplary service, he embodied that grassroots ethos shared by the GAA and the Gardaí, which is commitment to family, commitment to community, commitment to country. As the Garda Commissioner said this week, he epitomised what all Garda members should strive to be. Indeed, the death of Detective Garda Horkan is an all too painful reminder of the personal risks that Garda members take while working to keep us safe. The women and men of An Garda Síochána, in their everyday duty, put the welfare of others ahead of themselves as they work to shield us from harm and to connect our communities. While grounded in our communities, they courageously take on the burden of standing between us and danger. It's to them that we turn in times of crisis, including during the current pandemic. Each of the 89 men on the Garda Roll of Honour died in the service of the state and for the people of Ireland. Indeed, that is a debt that we can never fully repay, but it's one that we will always remember. When Colm Horkan passed out of Templemore in September 1995, his classmates included Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue, who was murdered while on duty in January 13. Also passing out that day were Garda Owen Fitzgerald and Garda Ambrose Fogarty, killed while on duty in separate road traffic accidents in 98 and 99. I know Colm's death has reignited painful memories for the tight-knit community of Castlerea, of the killing of Detective Garda John Morley and Garda Henry Byrne just miles away in Ballahadreen 40 years ago. We remember them all too today as we reflect on Colm's tragic loss. I know that these statements today cannot ease the pain for the Horkan family that they're feeling for their fallen son, their brother, their cousin and uncle, but I hope they can take some comfort in the obvious respect and admiration for Colm Horkan that we saw in Charlestown on Sunday. Indeed, Detective Garda Colm Horkan lost his life doing a job that he loved, as he was protecting and serving the community he loved. He represented the very best of An Garda Síochána and the best of us. We grieve for him. We'll remember his brave life, which ended far too soon. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy O'Callaghan.
Féin agus son farty fianna fáil bhualam mo chomhrón a dhéanamh le clán An Garda Colm Horkan ce for bhás an seachtain Chicago nuair bhí sé ag freastal an pobal. An níomid san teach seo an survey sa churann cótaí den Garda Síochána fáil gach lá agus na príochail mhóra a bhí ann agus iad ag obair son na phobal agus son na tíre agus ní aonfar dearmad irbert mhór an Garda Colm Horkan agus tá ag smíonna bheith an am seo an bhhaintear chairde agus chomhlachaí san Garda Síochána. Concorda, I want to express on my own behalf and on behalf of the Fianna Fáil Party our deepest sympathies and condolences to the family, friends and colleagues of the late Detective Garda Colm Horkan. Detective Garda Horkan gave his life defending our community. He gave his life as a member of An Garda Síochána at a time when most people were sleeping in their beds safely. At that time, he was out doing his job as a member of An Garda Síochána. I think it is very important that we remind ourselves that the job of a Garda can be a very dangerous job, and that's apparent from the tragic and brutal killing of Detective Garda Colm Horkan. I think we can also gain some courage and strength, however, from the fact that there is a fantastic relationship in this country that exists between An Garda Síochána and members of the public. I think that was apparent when we looked at the outpouring of grief around the country, which we saw in the aftermath of Colm's death. That relationship, I think, distinguishes An Garda Síochána in this country from police forces in other countries, where they were regarded as law enforcement agencies. That's not the situation with An Garda Síochána. They're not viewed in this country as a law enforcement agency. Instead, they're viewed as a community police force providing community policing. And I think that should be the testament and strong message that comes out from the grief that we've all experienced in the aftermath of Colm Horkan's death. I didn't know Colm Horkan, but I had the privilege of being at Phoenix Park last Sunday for the funeral service that was relayed from Charlestown to the assembled gathering in Phoenix Park. And I just wanted to emphasise again the strong sense of family that existed amongst the members of An Garda Síochána there, who were grieving strongly for the loss of their colleague. I think, however, we can gain comfort from the fact that his was a life that was very well lived. He sounded like a fantastic person, although I didn't meet him. But from what people who knew him say, he was a fantastic person who served his country, his community and his police force well.
Thank you, Deputy O'Callaghan. Deputy Martin Kenny.
The news of the murder of Detective Garda Colm Horkan last Wednesday evening was met with shock and anger and sadness across the whole country, not just in Roscommon but everywhere in Ireland. He was a highly respected officer and highly regarded member of the community. While I didn't know Garda Horkan, but the outpouring of grief by those who did tells its own story. He was a decent man, and those who loved him, he was taken all too soon from them in the most dreadful of ways. Colm Horkan was a dedicated member of An Garda Síochána, and he has been praised for his extraordinary work in making Ireland a safer place for everyone in the community. Before joining Garda Síochána, Colm was a firefighter here in Dublin, and indeed his colleagues in Dublin Fire Brigade remember him as a tireless and committed member of the team. It strikes me that Colm Horkan devoted his adult life to the service of others. We have all listened to the words of people who knew him well, and they paint a picture of a man who loved life and who genuinely cared for people. And the people of that area of Roscommon who had him as their Garda looking after them felt very privileged to have a man of his calibre looking after them in such a way. He was a person who would walk the hard road with you. He was a person who would stand in your corner. He was, of course, a dedicated supporter of the GAA and devoted to his beloved County Mayo GAA team and local club. He was an avid, passionate supporter of Liverpool Football Club as well. He was a person who loved music, concerts and a good laugh. But these are glimpses into Garda Horkan's, snippets of his life that was too tragically cut too short. This murder is a sorrowful reminder of the stark reality that members of a Garda Síochána go out to work every day knowing that they will often meet danger and harm. For those who face these risks to protect the lives of others in the community, they do so in a very brave way. We should be very grateful to those like Garda Horkan who do their job and do it well. Through the shock and sadness and outrage of this murder, a murder that has rightfully consumed the emotions of the nation, we cannot lose sight of the plain and simple humanity of the loss of a fine young man. A father has lost a cherished son, and indeed it was poignant that on Father's Day we had a father burying a son. And indeed, I understand that his sister was lost a couple of years ago as well, and indeed that family has met with great tragedy. As has all of the people of that area understand that the family there has been part of the community in Charlestown for many, many years. And I spoke to our councillor colleague down there, Jerry Murray, and he tells me that they had a pub just across the road from him and ran businesses in the town for many, many years, ran a taxi service, and his father Marty was a loved member of the community, and this huge loss to him and to everyone in that community has to be acknowledged today. The people of that area have lost a loyal friend, the Gardaí have lost a brave colleague, and there is immense pain, and their immense pain is unimaginable. Those who had Colm in their lives say he would never let them down, and no greater tribute can be paid to any man. On behalf of myself and of Sinn Féin, I want to extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to Garda Horkan and to his family. Our thoughts are with them all today.
Thank you, Deputy Kenny. Deputy Roderic O'Gorman.
Thank you, Count Corla. I'd like to join the other members in paying tribute to Detective Garda Colm Horkan. His death reminds us that every day members of An Garda Síochána put themselves at huge risk in keeping our communities safe. Indeed, it's particularly poignant to note that 3 other Gardaí from his graduating class, Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue, Garda Owen Fitzgerald and Garda Ambrose Fogarty, have all lost their lives in the line of duty. In Ireland, we benefit greatly from having a police force who are focused on keeping our communities safe rather than the rigid law enforcement approach that is seen in many other countries. And this approach is most clearly demonstrated by the unarmed nature of our police force. As Michael Staines, the first Garda Commissioner, stated, the Garda Síochána will succeed not by force of arms or numbers, but on their moral authority as servants of the people. But our Gardaí still face very real dangers as they undertake their work, whether it be dealing with highly resourced and organised criminal gangs or facing seemingly random incidents of violence. And the events that took place in Castlereagh remind us all of the reality that members of An Garda Síochána face every single day. Since his tragic death, the outpouring of grief from colleagues and from the wider community in Roscommon and in Mayo tells us of the type of man that Detective Garda Horkan was. The stories being told about him by friends and family have provided us with a picture of him, deeply embedded in his community, loyal to his friends, always conscious of his role in giving back to others. On behalf of the Green Party, I'd like to extend our deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Detective Garda Horkan. May he rest in peace.
Thank you very much, Deputy O'Gorman. Deputy Ged Nash.
Thank you very much, Count Corla. On behalf of the Labour Party, I want to express my sincere condolences to Detective Garda Horkan's father and all his family and his very wide circle of friends. His loss to his grieving family is simply incalculable. The people of Charleston of Mayo, his friends in the GAA, we all send our deepest sympathies on the tragic loss of one of your own. We especially, of course, extend our sympathies to Detective Garda Horkan's colleagues in An Garda Síochána. And when one member falls in the line of duty, it is felt by the entire force. This was apparent, I think, in the solemn and very dignified way in which members of the force on Sunday gathered from Donegal to Drogheda and beyond to pay their respects in their thousands. But it wasn't, of course, just the Gardaí who lined up to pay their personal tributes. People from all walks of life mourned Colm because of who he was, how he conducted himself and for what he represented. And from the tributes paid to him, he seemed to me to exemplify and embody everything that is good about An Garda Síochána and everything a member of An Garda Síochána should be. An integral part of his community, the first to have put his hand up when something needed to be done, a civic spirit and pride in your place, decent and always prepared to put others first. It is particularly poignant, as the Minister and others have said, that Colm came through the same class as the late Adrian Donoghue, a brave member of An Garda Síochána, cold-bloodedly killed in my own constituency outside Lordship Credit Union in 2013. And it is right too that we remember the sacrifice made by Garda Fitzgerald and Garda Fogarty in 1998 and 1999, respectively, classmates, of course, of the late Detective Garda Colm Horkan. He will live on in the memory of every serving member of An Garda Síochána, and he will live in the memory of all of us. In that sense, as the anthem of his beloved Liverpool FC proclaims, he will never walk alone.
Thank you very much, Deputy Nash. Deputy Catherine Murphy.
Thank you. On my own behalf and on behalf of the Social Democrats, I want to express our sympathy to the family and friends of Detective Garda Colm Horkan and to his colleagues in An Garda Síochána. The reports of his life and his work tell us something about the man, and I think that has resonated with everyone. From the reports we can see that Detective Garda Horkan was a very dedicated member of the force and to his work. So it wasn't just a job, and there's some of those professions that have a vocational nature to them, and it was very much how he lived his profession. Our streets, our community is the workplace of An Garda Síochána and was the workplace of Detective Garda Horkan. We can't take that aspect of An Garda Síochána for granted, and it's a very dangerous job, and it's not one that many of us would want our brothers or sisters or our son or daughter to put themselves in that kind of place of risk, but it's one that we do have a responsibility here in this House to ensure, and I've talked to members of An Garda Síochána over the years who worry about having to respond, for example, to an incident on their own. And I think we have to pay attention to making sure that that job is done in the safest way possible, and that's an aspect I think we need to be considering very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Murphy. Deputy Paul Murphy.
Orla. On behalf of Solidarity People for Profit and on my own behalf, I'd like to express our condolences and sympathy with Detective Garda Colm Horkan's family, his friends and his colleagues. Reading the reports of his funeral and the very many occasions that happened around the country, something that particularly struck me was the words of his brother, Brendan Horkan, at his funeral. He painted a very human, very warm picture of Colm Horkan. He said he was kind, considerate, selfless, and above all loyal to the core. He was a rock in our family, the man that was the glue that held it all together. And so our sympathies go out to all those who are grieving from this tragic loss.